I hope. I should be. It's not showing any errors. So we are now in an ad break. I do like that Geiger warns us of it, in addition to the other assorted stream warnings. That's quite handy. So yes, early doors today, or early today, because at 7:30, I'm going to be watching the guy behind the Book of Darkness and Light do a live reading of his new ghost story, which I dropped the link into my channel on Discord, since it's on the pay what you want, and he's an excellent reader. He is an excellent performer. I've only seen one of his stage shows, I think, because just as I was getting into it, all of lockdown happened and everything went horribly wrong. So I've seen some of his stuff live on Zoom and Facebook Live and things. Okay, thank you, Villa Katzen. Much appreciated. The best kind of subscription in many ways, because it costs Twitch Amazon money. Thank you. Okay, so yes, anyone who isn't around today, obviously, because I'm much earlier than normal, YouTube is probably the best bet, or the Twitch VOD. But YouTube will be up on my channel under the live, so we're good to go. Right, 40 seconds, and then I can start the read. Oh, that's wrong. That's gone wrong. I don't know where that's gone wrong. There we go. I hope I'm not glitching. No, it wasn't on purpose. It was, I had changed my backdrop on my camera window. You figuratively ran, you're still in your office. Excellent. Okay, so we are back off ad break. So official welcome to Druttercup Book Club. We are still reading The Phoenix and the Carpet, which has proven to be slightly longer than I expected. This is Chapter 9, The Burglar's Bride. Now, I don't know how we're going to top last week's 200 kittens, 400 muskrats, and a cow, and a burglar in the nursery. But I am kind of braced. So, fingers crossed. That was indeed wild. Okay. Oh, I'm sorry about that, Lexi. I'm trying to do the ad-free for an hour thing, which means I have to have 3 minutes of ads running at the top of the stream, but then people don't get pre-rolls. So yeah. Okay, let's get on with this. I don't know how long this is going to take to run, but I'm expecting to get just one chapter in. The morning after the adventure of the Persian cats, the muskrats, the common cow, and the uncommon burglar, all the children slept till it was 10 o'clock, and then it was only Cyril who woke. But he attended to the others, so that by 10:30 everyone was ready to help to get breakfast. It was shivery cold, and there was but little in the house that was really worth eating. Robert had arranged a thoughtful little surprise for the absent servants. Oh, you little bastard. He had made a neat and delightful booby trap. Oh, God. Oh, I'm so sorry, guys. The criminal activity has started already. He had made a neat and delightful booby trap over the kitchen door, and as soon as they heard the front door click open and knew the servants had come back, all four children hid in the cupboard under the stairs and listened with delight to the entrance, the tumble, the splash, the scuffle, and the remarks of the servants. They heard the cook say it was a judgment on them for leaving the place to itself. She seemed to think that a booby trap was a kind of plant that was quite likely to grow all by itself in a dwelling that was left shut up. But the housemaid, more acute, judged that someone must have been in the house. A view confirmed by the sight of the breakfast things on the nursery table. Well, the Home Alone stuff now would have been better last night. Yeah, I presumably didn't think of it last night. The burglar reminded him. The cupboard under the stairs was very tight and paraffiny, however, and a silent struggle for a place on top ended in the door bursting open and discharging Jane, who rolled like a football to the feet of the servants. "Now," said Cyril firmly, when the cook's hysterics had become quieter and the housemaid had time to say what she thought of them, "don't you begin jawing us. We aren't going to stand it. We know too much. You'll please make an extra special treacly rolly for dinner, and we'll have a tin tongue." "I dare say," said the housemaid, indignant, still in her outdoor things and with her hat very much on one side. "Don't you come a-threatening me, Master Cyril, because I won't stand it, so I tell you. You tell your ma about us being out. Much I care. She'll be sorry for me when she hears about my dear great-aunt by marriage has brought me up from a child and was a mother to me. She sent for me, she did, and she wasn't expected to last the night from the spasms going to her legs, and cook was that kind and careful she couldn't let me go alone, so—" "Oh, don't," said Anthea in real distress. "You know where lies go to, Eliza, at least if you don't." "Liars, indeed," said Eliza. "I won't demean myself talking to you." "How's Mrs. Wigson?" said Robert. "And did you keep it up last night?" The mouth of the housemaid fell open. "Did you doss with Maria or Emily?" asked Cyril. "How did Mrs. Prosser enjoy herself?" asked Jane. "Forbear," said Cyril. "They've had enough. Whether we tell or not depends on your later life," he went on, addressing the servants. "If you're decent to us, we'll be decent to you. You'd better make that treacle rolly, and if I were you, Eliza, I'd do a little housework and cleaning, just for a change." The servants gave in once and for all. "There's nothing like firmness," Cyril went on, when the breakfast things were cleared away and the children were alone in the nursery. "People are always talking of difficulties with servants. It's quite simple when you know the way. We can do what we like now, and they won't peach. I think we've broken their proud spirit. Let's go somewhere by carpet." "I wouldn't if I were you," said the phoenix, yawning as it swooped down from its roost on the curtain pole. "Yeah, blackmail in the morning. Yep." I mean, the servants are awful because we've established that, the housemaid doesn't clean. They don't like the children don't like them, the children are awful, the servants are crap. There's a distinct impression that the mother is hiring cheap, or possibly just willing to work in the household where those children live. You know, civilizatory politician in the making. I disagree. I think he's a spin doctor. I think he's a high-end civil servant in the making. He would never be tied to a political party. He is a Sir Humphrey, or will be. "I wouldn't if I were you," said the phoenix, yawning as it swooped down from its roost on the curtain pole. "I've given you one or two hints, but now concealment is at an end, and I see I must speak out." It perched on the back of a chair and swayed to and fro like a parrot on a swing. "What's the matter now?" said Anthea. She was not quite so gentle as usual, because she was still weary from the excitement of last night's cats. "I'm tired of things happening. I shan't go anywhere on the carpet. I'm going to darn my stockings." "Darn," said the phoenix, "darn. From these young lips, these strange expressions." "Mend, then," said Anthea, "with a needle and wool." The phoenix opened and shut its wings thoughtfully. You don't blame the servants for doing the bare minimum, especially since the kids are just going to undo all the work they put in. Yeah. Yeah. We have always also established, as of last week, however, they've been hoarding the nice stuff in the kitchen. So food that probably should have been going to the children was being stashed for their use. But that's down to the parents, frankly, to pay any attention at all to what the kids are eating and having to live with. This is one of those situations where communication, it's a thing. Only not in this book. Your stockings, it said, are much less important than they now appear to you. But the carpet. Look at the bare worn patches. Look at the great rent at yonder corner. The carpet has been your faithful friend and your willing servant. How have you requited its devoted service? Dear Phoenix, Anthea urged, don't talk in that horrible lecturing tone. You make me feel as if I'd done something wrong. Oh, I have a list. And really, it is a wishing carpet, and we haven't done anything else to it. Only wishes. Only wishes, repeated the Phoenix, ruffling its neck feathers angrily. And what sort of wishes? Wishing people to be in a good temper, for instance. What carpet did you ever hear of that had such a wish asked of it? For this noble fabric, on which you trample so recklessly, everyone removed its boots from the carpet and stood on the linoleum. This carpet never flinched, and did what you asked, but the wear and tear must have been awful. And then last night, I don't blame you about the cats and the rats, for those were its own choice, but what carpet could stand a heavy cow hanging onto it in one corner? Children should be seen and not heard, but not seen at meal times. They put you right off your dinner. Yes. Kids, you've been so demanding of the poor carpet. Let it rest. Yes, absolutely. I should think that cats and rats were worse, said Robert. Look at all their claws. Yes, said the bird. 11,940 of them. I dare say you noticed. I should be surprised if these had not left their mark. Good gracious, said Jane, sitting down suddenly on the floor and patting the edge of the carpet softly. Do you mean it's wearing out? Its life with you has not been a luxurious one, said the Phoenix. French mud twice, sand of sunny shores twice, soaking in southern seas once, India once, goodness knows where in Persia once, muskrat land once, and once wherever the cow came from. Hold your carpet up to the light and with cautious tenderness, if you please. Cats are doing a number on your carpet, yeah. Pippin R.I.P. used to do that. He had a thing about one of my rugs. Oh boy. With cautious tenderness, the boys held the carpet up to the light. The girls looked, and a shiver of regret ran through them as they saw how those 11,940 claws had run through the carpet. It was full of little holes. There were some large ones, and more than one thin place. At one corner a strip of it was torn and hung forlornly. We must mend it, said Anthea. Never mind about my stockings. I can sew them up in lumps with sewing cotton if there's no time to do them properly. I know it's awful, and no girl who respected herself and all that, but the poor dear carpet's more important than my silly stockings. Let's go out now, this very minute. So out they all went, and bought wool to mend the carpet. But there is no shop in Camden Town where you can buy wishing wool. No, nor in Kentish Town either. However, ordinary Scotch heather mixture fingering seemed good enough. Down, kids. And this they bought, and all that day Jane and Anthea darned and darned and darned. The boys went out for a walk in the afternoon, and the gentle Phoenix paced up and down the table, for exercise, as it said, and talked to the industrious girls about their carpet. It's not an ordinary, ignorant, innocent carpet from Kidderminster, it said. It's a carpet with a past, a Persian past. Do you know that in happier years, when that carpet was the property of caliphs, viziers, kings and sultans, it never lay on the floor? I thought the floor was the proper home of a carpet, Jane interrupted. Not of a magic carpet, said the Phoenix. Why, if it had been allowed to lie about on floors, there wouldn't be much left of it now. No, indeed. It has lived in chests of cedar wood, inlaid with pearl and ivory, wrapped in priceless tissues of cloth of gold, embroidered with gems of fabulous value. It has reposed in the sandalwood caskets of princesses and in the rose attar-scented treasure houses of kings. Never, never had anyone degraded it by walking on it, except in the way of business when wishes were required, and then they always took their shoes off, and you— "Oh, don't," said Jane, very near tears. "You know you'd never have hatched at all if it hadn't been for Mother wanting a carpet for us to walk on." "You needn't have walked so much or so hard," said the bird. "But come, dry that crystal tear, and I will relate to you the story of Princess Suleyka, the Prince of Asia, and the magic carpet." "Relate away," said Anthea. Please do." "The boys should be helping with the sewing too, though at least half responsible for the damage." "Yep, absolutely. 100%. But the girls will have learned sewing, unlikely from their mother, but probably from school. And I'm guessing the boys didn't. As someone who got stuck learning needlework at school, when she'd much rather have been doing what the boys' school next door was doing, which was welding, metalwork, woodwork, and electrics. But fortunately, I was the last year who got lumbered with learning how to use a sewing machine. Your stepdad was told he couldn't do sewing at school because it was for girls in the 70s. Yeah, it works both ways. I've always loved the fact that I am fairly technical as a person, unless you present me with a sewing machine, at which point I will break it. I don't know how, and I don't know why, but I will break it. The way these kids are going, you see at least one of them on a whaling ship, and that means doing your own mending. Yes. Absolutely, yeah, I can see that. "The Princess Suleyka, fairest of royal ladies," began the bird, "had in her cradle been the subject of several enchantments. Her grandmother had been in her day, but what in her day Suleyka's grandmother had been destined never to, was destined never to be revealed. For Cyril and Robert suddenly burst into the room, and on each brow were the traces of deep emotion. On Cyril's pale brow stood beads of agitation and perspiration, and on the scarlet brow of Robert was a large black smear. "What ails you both?" asked the Phoenix, and it added tartly that storytelling was quite impossible if people would come in interrupting like that. "Your mother learned to knit at school because it was a very, very cold winter, so no outdoor recess, and the teacher taught the entire class, boys and girls." Oh, that's a good idea. We did embroidery at primary school, and the whole class did it. Then I went to a girls' school, and they were obsessed with teaching us how to sew, which was annoying. But on the other hand, I now know how to mend clothes and stuff. My cuddly toys, however, were a thing of horror. "Oh, do shut up for any sake," said Cyril, sinking into a chair. Robert smoothed the ruffled golden feathers, adding kindly, "Squirrel doesn't mean to be a beast. It's only that the most awful things happened, and stories don't seem to matter so much. Please don't be cross. Won't be when you've heard what's happened." "What has happened?" said the bird, still rather crossly. And Anthea and Jane paused with long needles poised in the air, and long needlefuls of Scotch heather mixture fingering wool drooping from them. "The most awful thing you can possibly think of," said Cyril. "That nice chap, our own burglar, the police have got him on suspicion of stolen cats. That's what his brother's missus told me." "Oh, begin at the beginning," cried Anthea impatiently. "Well then, we went out, and down by where the undertaker's is, with the china flowers in the window, you know, there was a crowd, and of course we went to have a squint, and it was two bobbies and our burglar between them, and he was being dragged along, and he said, 'I tell you, them cats was give me. I got 'em in exchange for me milking a cow in the basement parlour up Camden Town way.' And the people laughed. Beasts. And then one of the policemen said perhaps he could give the name and address of the cow, and he said no, he couldn't. But he could take them there if they'd only leave go of his coat collar and give him a chance to breathe, and the policeman said he could tell all of that to the magistrate in the morning. He didn't see us, and so we came away." You did textiles in school where you learnt a bit of sewing, but everyone did that, and everyone did design technology, which included woodwork and food tech, which was cooking. Yeah, I did HE from the second year, which until you get to GCSE was basically cooking. And I did needlework in the first year, but after that, all the years after me, they got to do design technology instead of needlework. So they were doing things like, casting metal and stuff like that, which I was always dead jealous of. Wasabi on your torn mat. Oh, Hiram, ow. Oh, sympathies. Oh, Cyril, how could you? Said Anthea. Don't be a pudding head, Cyril advised. A fat lot of good it would have done if we'd let him see us. No one would have believed a word we said. They'd have thought we were kidding. We did better than let him see us. We asked a boy where he lived, and he told us, and we went there, and it's a little greengrocer's shop, and we bought some Brazil nuts. Here they are. The girls waved away the Brazil nuts with loathing and contempt. Well, we had to buy something, and while we were making up our minds what to buy, we heard his brother's missus talking. She said when he came home with all those meowlers, she thought there was more in it than met the eye, but he would go out this morning with the two likeliest of them, one under each arm. She said he sent her out to buy blue ribbon to put round their beastly necks, and she said if he got 3 months hard, it was her dying word that he'd got the blue ribbon to thank for it. That and his own silly thieving ways, taking cats that anybody would know he couldn't have come by in the way of business, instead of things that wouldn't have been missed, which Lord knows there are plenty of, and... "Oh, stop!" cried Jane. And indeed it was time, for Cyril seemed like a clock that had been wound up and could not help going on. "Where is he now?" "At the police station," said Robert, for Cyril was out of breath. "The boy told us they'd put him in the cells and would bring him up before the beak in the morning. I thought it was a jolly lark last night getting him to take the cats, but now—" "The end of a lark," said the Phoenix, "is the beak." "Let's go to him," cried both the girls, jumping up. "Let's go and tell the truth. They must believe us." "They can't," said Cyril. "Just think, if anyone came up to you with such a tale, you wouldn't believe it, however much you tried. We would only mix things up for the worse for him." "Must be something we can do," said Jane, sniffing very much. "My own dear pet burglar, I can't bear it, and he was so nice. The way he talked about his father and how he was going to be extra honest." "Dear Phoenix, you must be able to help us. You're so good and kind and pretty and clever. Do tell us what to do." Wow. She hasn't done much, but Jane can do manipulation like nobody's business. Indeed, a punal play on words. "Kids, your own mother didn't believe you about the carpet. You will not get the cops to believe anything." Yep. Especially if they talk to the constable who was there investigating the cruelty to animals before the Phoenix led him off. The Phoenix rubbed its beak thoughtfully with its claw. "You might rescue him," it said, "and conceal him here till the law supporters had forgotten about him." "That would be ages and ages," said Cyril, "and we couldn't conceal him here. Father might come home any moment, and if he found the burglar here, he wouldn't believe the true truth any more than the police would. That's the worst of the truth. Nobody ever believes it. Couldn't we take him somewhere else?" Jane clapped her hands. "The sunny southern shore," she cried, "where the cook's being queen. He and she would be company for each other." And really the idea did not seem bad, if only he would consent to go. So, all talking at once, the children arranged to wait till evening, and then to seek the dear burglar in his lonely cell. Meantime, Jane and Anthea darned away as hard as they could to make the carpet as strong as possible, for all felt how terrible it would be if the precious burglar, while being carried to the sunny southern shore, were to tumble through a hole in the carpet and be lost forever in the sunny southern sea. The servants were tired after Mrs. Wigson's party, so everyone went to bed early, and when the Phoenix reported that both servants were snoring in a heartfelt and candid manner, the children got up. They'd never undressed, just putting their nightgowns on over their things had been enough to deceive Eliza when she came to turn out the gas. So they were ready for anything, and they stood on the carpet and said, "I wish we were in our burglar's lonely cell," and instantly they were. I think everyone had expected the cell to be the deepest dungeon below the castle moat. I am sure no one had doubted that the burglar, chained by heavy fetters to a ring in the damp stone wall, would be tossing uneasily on the bed of straw, with a pitcher of water and a mouldering crust untasted beside him, Robert, remembering the underground passage and the treasure, had brought a candle and matches, but these were not needed. The cell was a little whitewashed room about 12 feet long and 6 feet wide. On one side of it was sort of a shelf sloping a little towards the wall. On this were 2 rugs, striped blue and yellow, and a waterproof pillow. Rolled in the rugs and with his head on the pillow lay the burglar, fast asleep. It had its tea, though the children did not know. It had come from the coffee shop round the corner in very thick crockery. The scene was plainly revealed by the light of a gas lamp in the passage outside, which shone into the cell through a pane of thick glass over the door. "I shall gag him," said Cyril, "and Robert will hold him down. Anthea and Jane and the Phoenix can whisper soft nothings to him when he gradually awakes." Jesus. So what the hell? Oh my God. The criminality, it accelerates. This plan did not have the success it deserved, because the burglar, curiously enough, was much stronger even in his sleep than Robert and Cyril, and at the first touch of their hands he leapt up and shouted out something very loud indeed. Instantly steps were heard outside. Anthea threw her arms around the burglar and whispered, "It's us, the ones that gave you the cats. We've come to save you, only don't let on we're here. Can't we hide somewhere?" Heavy boots sounded on the flagged passage outside, and a firm voice shouted, "Here, you stop that row, will you?" "All right, governor," replied the burglar, still with Anthea's arms around him. "I was only talking in my sleep, no offence." It was an awful moment. Would the boots and the voice come in? Yes? No? The voice said, "Well, stow it, will you?" And the boots went heavily away along the passage and up some sounding stone stairs. "Now then," whispered Anthea. "And the Blue Moses did you get in?" asked the burglar in a hoarse whisper of amazement. "On the carpet," said Jane, truly. "Stow that," said the burglar. "One on you I could have swallowed, but 4, and a yellow fowl." "Look here," said Cyril sternly, "you wouldn't have believed anyone if they'd told you beforehand about your finding a cow and all those cats in our nursery." "That I wouldn't," said the burglar with whispered fervour. "So help me, Bob, I wouldn't." "Well then," Cyril went on, ignoring this appeal to his brother, "just try to believe when we tell you and act what we tell you and act accordingly. It can't do you any harm, you know," he went on a hoarse, whispered earnestness. "You can't be very much worse off than you are now, you know. But if you'll just trust to us, we'll get you out of this right enough. No one saw us come in. The question is, where would you like to go?" "I'd like to go to Boulogne," was the instant reply of the burglar. "I always wanted to go on that there trip, but I never had the ready at the right time of year." "Boulogne's a town like London," said Cyril, well-meaning but inaccurate. "How could you get a living there?" The burglar scratched his head in deep doubt. "It's hard to get an honest living anywheres nowadays," he said, and his voice was sad. "Yes, isn't it?" said Jane sympathetically. "But how about a sunny southern shore where there's nothing to do at all unless you want to?" "Well, that's my billet, miss," replied the burglar. "I never did care about work. Not like some people always fussing about." "Did you never like any sort of work?" asked Anthea severely. "Lord, lummy, yes," he answered. "Gardening was my hobby, so it was, but my father died afore he could bind me to a nurseryman, and—" "We'll take you to the sunny southern shore," said Jane. "You've no idea what the flowers are like." "Oh, old cook's there," said Anthea. "She's queen." "Oh, chuck it," the burglar whispered, clutching at his head with both hands. "I know the first minute I seen them cats and that cow as it was a judgment on me. I don't know now whether I'm a-standing on my hat and my boots, so help me I don't. If you can get me out, get me, and if you can't, get along with you for goodness sake, and give me a chance to think about what will be most likely to go down with the beak in the morning." "Come on the carpet, then," said Anthea, gently shoving. The others quietly pulled, and the moment the feet of the burglar were planted on the carpet, Anthea wished, "I wish we were all on the sunny southern shore where Cook is. Bet Cook's going to be thrilled." And instantly they were. There were the rainbow sands, the tropic glories of leaf and flower, and there, of course, was the cook, crowned with white flowers, and with all the wrinkles of crossness and tiredness and hard work wiped out of her face. "Why, Cook, you're quite pretty," Anthea said, as soon as she got her breath after the tumble-rush whirl of the carpet. The burglar stood rubbing his eyes in the brilliant tropic sunlight, and gazing wildly around him on the vivid hues of the tropic land. "Penny plain and tuppence covered," he he exclaimed pensively, and well worth any twopence however hard earned. I'm not entirely sure he is. I think he referred to his sister. They were calling her his missus, but I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, I'm pretty sure he said he lived with his sister. So I'm hoping it's just a terminology thing. But we shall find out. The cook was seated on a grassy mound with her court of copper-coloured savages around her. The burglar pointed a grimy finger at these. Are they tame? He asked anxiously. Do they bite or scratch or do anything to you with poisoned arrows or oyster shells or that? Very specific. Now, what was I using for the cook? Don't you be so timid, said the cook. Look here. This is only a dream when you've come into it, and as it's only a dream, there's no nonsense about what a young lady like me ought to say or not, so I'll say you're the best-looking fellow I've seen this many a day. And the dream goes on and on, seemingly, as long as you behaves. The things what you has to drink and eat and drink stays just as good as real ones, and... Look here, said the burglar. I'll come straight here out of the police station. These here kids will tell you this ain't no blame of mine. Yeah. It's a little better. Still, single ladies don't manage the best on their own in this era. No. But working class, probably way more reliant, self-reliant than upper middle or certainly upper class. Yeah, we're back to has never met anybody out of context. And probably is relying on less books, more newspaper, magazine stories, that kind of thing. So your sensationalist stuff. This guy's never been in the army, so he's probably never travelled. Will almost certainly have met various people from across what was then the Empire, because London and people have always, travelled. London always had a fairly big immigrant population, or descendants thereof, before filtering out to the rest of the country. But it's one thing meeting, Mr. Patel, who lives down the street and owns the, I was about to say the newsagent, but I think we're a bit early for that. But you know what I mean, works in the grocers. And encountering people en masse in their own natural environment, for want of a better term. Well, you were a burglar, said the truthful Anthea gently. Only 'cause I was drove to it by dishonest blokes as well you knows, miss, rejoined the criminal. Blowed this ain't the hottest January I've known for years. Wouldn't you like a bath? Asked the Queen, and some white clothes like me. I should only look a juggins in them, miss, thanking you all the same, was the reply. But a bath I wouldn't resist, and my shirt was only cleaned on week before last. Cyril and Roberts led him to a rocky pool where he bathed luxuriously. Then in shirt and trousers he sat on the sand and spoke. That cook or queen, or whatever you call her with a white bouquet on her head, she's my sort. Wonder if she keep company. I should ask her. I was always a quick hitter, the man went on. It's a word and a blow with me, I will. Mate. In shirt and trousers and crowned with the scented flowery wreath which Cyril hastily wove as they returned to the court of the Queen, the burglar stood before the cook and spoke. Look here, miss, he said, you and me been all forlorn like, both on this here dream, or whatever you calls it. I'd like to tell you straight as I likes your looks. The cook smiled and looked down bashfully. I'm a single man, what you might call a bachelor. I'm mild in my habits, which these kids will tell you the same, and I'd like to have the pleasure of walking out with you next Sunday. Law, said the Queen cook, how sudden you are, mister. Walking out means you're going to be married, said Anthea. Why not get married and have done with it? I would. Don't mind if I do, said the burglar. But the cook said, No, miss, not me, not even in a dream. I don't say anything against this young man's looks, but I always swore I'd be married in church, if at all. And anyway, I don't believe these here savages would know how to keep a registering office, even if I was to show them. No, mister, thank you kindly. If we can't bring a clergyman into the dream, I'll live and die like what I am. Will you marry her if we get a clergyman? Asked the matchmaking Anthea. I'm agreeable, miss, I'm sure, said he, pulling his wreath straight. This here bouquet do tickle a chap's ears, to be sure. So very hurriedly, the carpet was spread out and instructed to fetch a clergyman. Kidnapping! Again! When we've done this, and the last session, by the way, how would people feel about going through and working out the crimes committed in the course of this book? The instructions were written on the inside of Cyril's cap with a piece of billiard chalk Robert had got from the marker at the hotel in Lyndhurst. The carpet disappeared, and more quickly than you would have thought possible it came back, bearing on its bosom the Reverend Septimus Blenkinsop. The Reverend Septimus was rather a nice young man, but very much mazed and muddled, because when he saw a strange carpet laid out at his feet in his own study, he naturally walked on it to examine it more closely. You'd like to that? Okay, yep. In that case, yep, criminal record will be either at the very end, yes, or it'll get its own session. Yes, we can calculate their prison sentences. And he happened to stand on one of the thin places that Jane and Anthea had darned, so that he was half on wishing carpet and half on plain Scotch heather mixed fingering, which had no magic properties at all. The effect of this was that he was only half there, so that the children could just see through him as though he'd been a ghost. And as for him, he saw the sunny southern shore, the cook and the burglar and the children quite plainly. But through them all he saw quite plainly also his study at home, with the books and the pictures and the marble clock which had been presented to him when he left his last situation. He seemed to think himself to be in sort of an insane fit, so that it did not matter what he did, and he married the burglar to the cook. The cook said that she would rather have had a soldier kind of a clergyman, one that you couldn't see. A solider kind of a clergyman, one that you couldn't see through so plain. Perhaps this was real enough for a dream. Ruthie Cat's sad, you can't make it be sunny. She wants to snooze in a sun puddle, but it's supposed to rain today and you can't do anything about it. Oh. Unfortunately, cats cannot change the weather, and neither can cats' owners, last I checked. But cats don't believe that. And of course the clergyman, though misty, was really real and able to marry people, and he did. When the ceremony was over, the clergyman wandered about the island collecting botanical specimens, for he was a great botanist, and the ruling passion was strong, even in an insane fit. There was a splendid wedding feast. Can you fancy Jane and Anthea and Robert and Cyril dancing merrily in a ring, hand in hand with copper-colour savages, round the happy couple, the queen cook and the burglar consort? There were more flowers gathered and thrown than you have ever even dreamed of, and before the children took carpet for home, the now married and settled burglar made a speech. Ladies and gentlemen, he said, and savages of both kinds, only I know you can't understand what I'm saying, but we'll let that pass. If this is a dream, I'm on. If it ain't, I'm oner than ever. If it's betwixt and between, well, I'm honest, and I can't say more. I don't want no more high London society. I've got someone to put my arm around of, and I've got the whole lot of this here island for my allotment, and if I don't grow some broccoli, it'll open the judge's eyes at the cottage flower shows, well, strike me pink. All I ask is, as these young gents and ladies will bring some parsley seed into the dream, and a penn'orth of radish seeds and 3 penn'orth of onion, and I wouldn't mind going to 4pence or 5pence of mixed kale, only I ain't got a brown, so I don't deceive you. And there's one more thing. You might take away the parson. I don't like things that I can see half through, so here's how. He drained the coconut shell of palm wine. It was now past midnight, though it was tea time on the island. Pardon me. With all good wishes, the children took their leave. They also collected the clergyman and took him back to his study and his presentation clock. The phoenix kindly carried the seeds next day to the burglar and his bride, and returned with the most satisfactory news of the happy pair. "He's made a wooden spade and started on his allotment," it said, "and she is weaving him a shirt and trousers of the most radiant whiteness." The police never knew how the burglar got away. In Kentish Town Police Station, his escape is still spoken of with bated breath, as the Persian mystery. As for the Reverend Septimus Blenkinsop, he felt that he had had a very insane fit indeed, and was sure it was due to overstudy. So he planned a little dissipation, and took his 2 maiden aunts to Paris, where they enjoyed a dazzling round of museums and picture galleries, and came back feeling that they had indeed seen life. He never told his aunts or anyone else about the marriage on the island, because no one likes it to be generally known if he has insane fits, however interesting and unusual. And that's the end of chapter 9. So, not only has the cook been promoted to Queen of an Island people, and when last seen had been teaching them to cook and learning their language and was going great guns, but she's now been married off to a really rubbish burglar who probably shouldn't have been a criminal in the first place and just picked a really bad path. So I suppose that counts as a happy ending for her. More importantly, she isn't working for the kids anymore. So we shall leave it. That was actually quite good timing. So I shall leave it there for tonight. I won't move on to the next chapter. Because at 7:30, of course, there's the ghost story. He was bad at crime. Let's hope gardening goes better. He seems to have grown up on a farm because, of course, he learned how to milk a cow on his dad's farm. And he was going to be apprenticed to a nurseryman, which means that he would have been a plantsman. So he does seem to have had some skill in that direction. Just unfortunately, he ended up taking the wrong life path and ended up as an urban burglar, and therefore crap. Maybe he'll be good at being an island resident. I think he will, yeah. I think he'd be quite thrilled with that. The cats presumably will have found good homes. Let's face it. They'll have been confiscated by the police and then probably auctioned off. Either auctioned off, or I would imagine there's an awful lot of policemen's other halves and mothers who were now getting kittens for presents. And the police will be trying to pretend it all never happens. Because, when it comes to live evidence, there's a limit to what you can do. So yes, I think we can all safely say the cats found homes. Never did sort out what happened to the muskrats, though. Presumably they just got taken back to where they came from. So, I hope people enjoyed that one. That was not as nutty as last chapters, but it's nice that there was some consequences to the kids randomly shooting them off. They became billionaires in 2025, yes. Yeah, there were consequences to the children's actions. Whether the children will recognise that this was a consequence of their own actions, we're not sure. It would be nice to think so. And also, yes, the carpet is suffering. Next chapter is the hole in the carpet. Interesting idea that the bit that's darned is still holding together, but it doesn't have the magic quality. So they're going to have to be very careful where they stand. The usable area of the carpet is shrinking rapidly, because they have been far too keen on it. So, thank you very much, and I will hopefully see you on Thursday. I will be back to the thaumaturge. I may well be streaming tomorrow, because the co-stream for Project Zomboid with Prono has hit a scheduling snag. So we'll sort that out. But I will, with luck, be streaming, and if I am, it'll be from about 5:30 in the evening. So I will not know what to do with myself at that time of day. And we'll see what it comes down to. May well be X4 Foundations, just for a bit of sci-fi streaming. Bit of a break from fantasy and horror. Okay, so if anyone else is joining the ghost story, I will see you guys in a bit. Otherwise, I will hopefully see you tomorrow or on Thursday. And if not, next Monday. Bye-bye.